a lot of this week has centred on the future of manager Roy Hodgson. Now, of course, we extend our well wishes to him because it emerged that he collapsed during training on Thursday, with talk also surrounding his future. As I say, there was a suggestion that they're already lining up a replacement for him in the, I suppose, relatively unknown Oliver Glasner.
Yes.
He was a name not necessarily touted about until this week. But with regards to Hodgson, he was taken to hospital alongside club chairman Steve Parish, who went with him to undergo tests. He was scheduled to take part in a pre-match press conference ahead of the crucial game with Everton on Monday, but it was cancelled 37 minutes before it was due to start. The club have since confirmed that the former England manager is stable and doing okay. But obviously, like I said, Cass, this whole week surrounding Palace and surrounding Roy Hodgson has been about his future. If we just, as I say, we do wish him all the very best, but if we take that side of things out of this conversation for now and just talk about the manager, do you understand this discussion that's been taking place and whether or not he will be the manager come this weekend or, going forward?
It's incredibly bad timing, as in very unfortunate for the club and Roy Hodgson himself and family and fans. Look, what happened in the media this week, I've seen many a time. The build-up to a sacking or a parting of ways, headlines of other managers coming in. That's been the same for nearly every manager, Nat. How many times we've read in a paper that, talks over the weekend. How many times, I've come in and said, I've heard this through the grapevine, or you've said, similar things. And it pans out to be true that a manager's time is ended at the football club. Palace have done nothing different to nearly every other club, in my opinion. It's just terrible timing. Look, one thing, if you want to have a go at Crystal Palace for this, is the succession plan of a manager. That wasn't the greatest, how they've handled it over the last few seasons. And Roy kept them up, obviously, as we know, did a great job last season in difficult circumstances. They stayed with him another year. Roy would know that this year would probably been his last anyway, unless it was an amazing season, because unfortunately his age is where they will be looking for younger blood. Every industry you're in, people look, our industry now, this industry we're in, people sometimes, you have to take it on the chin that sometimes it's time for you to move on. And I was surprised that Roy stayed on. I thought the last time, great job. And I've always talked about his legacy in his career as a manager, and it's been tremendous, that he should go out on his terms. And this is, unfortunately, the timing of everything this week is just backfired for the club and the way that people feel. All that's happened to Roy, from the club's perspective, is what's happened to many managers, where the news has been out there days before that the club are going elsewhere.
Well, obviously, I mentioned it wasn't talked about a huge amount here on talkSPORT over this week. Let's bring you the thoughts of talkSPORT's Alan Brazil and Gabby Agbonlahor. This is their reaction to this fallout.
You know what I mean? That's football for you, and it's garbage. We don't treat people fairly. I swear, there's the secret, it was leaked, it was out, the Frankfurt guy, and, Roy's getting on. Okay, you might say, well, he's had a great life in football, he shouldn't have taken the job on, but it's his passion. And this happens to him.
I agree with you. I feel that when you've had the career that Roy Hodgson's had and how much he loves Palace, just don't let it get leaked. If you're Steve Parish and you are going for the ex-Frankfurt manager, just keep it low. Don't let these agents leak it. And tell Roy, you know what, Roy, we're going to end it. You know what? You're not going to be in charge for Monday night's game. I'll bring you someone else in. Let him know first.
Correct.
Hopefully, maybe he did, to be fair, Al, but I'm hoping that...
but by the way, if they said that to me and I was a manager, I'd say, fine, well, I'm off now. Thank you. I love the club. I hope we stay up. Goodbye.
Okay, so that's the thoughts of Alan Brazil and Gabby Agbonlahor. Now, depending on where you're reading and where you get your information from, some are now saying he's expected to step down. Some are saying he may well be relieved of his duties. I mentioned Oliver Glasner, who is an Austrian manager. He has been linked then with the role, having also in the past Steve Cooper's been mooted as one. Kieran McKenna most recently at Ipswich, although again reports say he has turned down the chance to work at Crystal Palace. They're 5 points clear of the relegation zone. as things stand. Form's not been the best for Crystal Palace either. As I mentioned, there will be lots of Palace fans a little bit worried about where they are in the table, 15th, as I say, but it's those 5 points that are the biggest issue. Going for someone that's never managed in the Premier League, is that a problem, or does that matter?
Well, it's a really hard call now when you talk of management, because the betting markets always get it so wrong, because 9 times out of 10 the club go left field and sometimes produce someone that relatively is unknown in this country.
Yeah.
This is an exact case of a guy's coming in that very few people know his abilities, how his style of play is. With, I would imagine it's more forward thinking, because attack-minded football now is everywhere, and I think clubs are looking at that. They're understanding that it's become just more than winning games. It's become you have to entertain as well. There are many clubs who are adopting that attitude, and I always want to go, let me have a chance. Let me watch how Palace are set up and watch how the team play, personnel that came in, see recruitment. So you have to wait for all these things to naturally change at a football club. So give the guy the benefit of the doubt that the club have done their homework, because, they've stayed in the Premier League quite a number of years now, Crystal Palace, even though they've taken criticism at some degree. I mean, I just want to go back to one thing that's quite important here. Think of Arsene Wenger's career at Arsenal, how brilliant he was. When it started to fall away, disenchanted fans, some wanted him out, divided, caused division. It actually caused Arsenal lots of division at the club, because there was a Wenger in and Wenger out brigade.
Yeah.
And that stayed too long, and the club got stale. Now, Palace, obviously, Roy hasn't had the achievements of Arsene Wenger, but even the very best can end badly. And it's a brutal industry in many ways. What Alan said, it is brutal, but I don't know how you manage it in another way. It's high end. The Premier League's the top elite. When you get to the extreme level of big business, it can be ruthless.
Yeah, and look, there aren't many managers that step away of their own accord.
No, very
Klopp
few.
being one, but what a surprise that was to everybody. You're quite right, and it is a brutal industry. And look, I understand the position that they're in, the fact that they haven't had I think it was 4 wins in their last.
No,
18,
it's been a bad.
That?
It's been a bad run. That it really has.
And the problem with Crystal Palace, I see, Cass, is they're a club that just seems to coast. There's nothing more that you get from Crystal Palace. Yeah, they'll get the odd shot victory here and there, but they're a coasting team, and that comes from the top. That's how you see it. You don't feel as though the manager's fully backed with a huge amount of finances. That's not to say, obviously, they can spend a lot of money, because we know that that's not what clubs can do these days. But it just feels that they're just a club that just mediocre. There's nothing more from Palace.
Well, they've got a fan base that apparently had, one of the best atmospheres in the country.
Oh, brilliant. I've been Selhurst Park.
My
goodness,
so they've got a fan base
fantastic.
that are really, feel like they're bringing something to the game, and the team has sort of not let them down. But it's been a difficult. Crystal Palace
But it's the management from the top, is what I'm saying.
Yeah. I've always said it's the hardest club to speak about in the Premier League, Crystal Palace, because they've been redundant in so many ways. Yeah. This succession plan has just been a continuation of other issues that they should have had in place for years.